Good morning. As you just heard in the song, glad to be here today. My name is Toffees, as always, bringing you our morning show here. Every weekday morning, we're here bright and early, usually between 7 and 7:30. If you like the show, you can follow me at Toffees_Dota2, as well as to get updates on when the show is going live. That said, I'm joined here today by my guest, Gorgon the Wonder Cow, the chief editor, or editor-in-chief, I guess is the way to say it, of High Ground TV, as well as a staff writer for Join Dota, a staff caster for Sivo, a community caster for Join Dota. Like, it just goes on and on. Let me have him introduce himself.
I'm always busy, and,
right?
and the thing is, I don't actually work as much as that implies. All those titles make it seem like I'm everywhere, and I'm not, so there you go.
Well, you were during TI, right? During TI, it was like a nightmare your schedule, I think.
Yeah, I like, near the end of TI, I completely unplugged. I stopped doing stuff for anybody. Like, legitimately, I just stopped working near the end of TI, completely burned out. But fortunately, Join Dota had plenty of staff writers on hand, doing a lot of work, really burning the midnight oil over there. And, you know, High Ground TV, we already got our TI goals out of the way before we reached the end, so... I yesterday picked up a copy of Minecraft to play for the first time ever, and I've just been doing that all night, just kind of trying to defrag from all of that, you know?
No, I understand completely. So, and that's it. Yesterday, guys, we did a wrap-up show. If you missed it, you can catch it over on SoundCloud. It's soundcloud.com/Toffees_Dota2, or you can head over to our YouTube channel. Link is in the Twitch, or you can just follow it through my Twitter. To get over there, it's just 5 Midas Gaming is the YouTube channel, and you can check it out. We did a big wrap-up. We had the guest Havoc from the 82L joined us to just talk about the tournament, aftermath, etc. So, TI has passed. The moment the changes loom, we're going to be following what happens to teams over the next couple of weeks. I assume that we'll see some shuffles. I'll make sure, though, that any rumors that we hear of, we'll let you know about whether or not the rumors are substantiated, etc. And try to keep you up to date on what's going on in Dota. The reason for that is there's not a whole lot going on in Dota right now. I mean, there are some big news issues. Like, so number one, and the only one that like we really have to talk about right now, is Lanham retires, man.
Yeah.
You know, that's pretty crazy.
Everybody knew what was happening. I mean, he said before TI, this is my last TI. Like, I'm retiring immediately after this, regardless of how well we do. And as I said in some interviews, like, oh, he's going to be gone. Yeah. And it really bums me out because I want to stay with DK, but I want to stay with this DK. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, he's going out kind of like the Dan Marino of Dota, right? I mean, for those of you who may not be U.S. football fans, Dan Marino was arguably one of the greatest American quarterbacks as far as the game's concerned, but he never won a Super Bowl ring. He kept going to the big show, getting himself up there pretty high, and then just could not close the deal with his team, so retires without a ring, retires without a Super Bowl victory, which for a quarterback of his caliber is very unique, and I think Lanham kind of fulfills that. Lanham, arguably, probably one of the best supports in the world, no ring.
Yeah, well, to be fair, there's only been 4, right? So there are 20 guys in the world who have a ring right now, and he's retiring when there's only 20 guys in the world with it. And every year, there's 100 people or so who are shooting for that. Arguably, most years out of which you have 15 people who realistically have a shot at it. This year, turns out there was more like 40 people who
had a shot at it,
had a shot at it, and only 5 could get it. So, I mean, the odds were stacked against him on that, with this being his final year. But, yeah, that throws some really interesting mix the way of DK, because once again, Burning said that he might retire, and Ice says that he expects Burning to retire.
Yep.
And so Ice said that he might go off and try to find a new team. He wanted to stay with DK. He wants to be with DK, but he wants to be with his DK.
Right.
He's looking to be drafter now if he does go into a new team. So that's something interesting as well. He doesn't think that there are enough players that can handle the pressure of that position when push comes to shove at these LAN events. So that's interesting. Once again, I've said this on stream before, but he is, if not my favorite player, one of my top 3. And because of that, I'd be very interested in seeing him expand. Of course, DK also is a team of mostly Chinese players with a Chinese owning organization as a gaming club. And Ice is not Chinese, so that's also potentially some movement. We've also heard some rumors that, like, AC was saying he would not be surprised. Like, he expects there to be a shuffle on Navi's roster.
Yeah,
which would be interesting. I've heard some rumors about eHug even, which they didn't go to TI, but they've been underperforming almost their entire career, but especially since the loss of Justin.
Right.
And I've heard from I'm Sheep Sucks say, like, we're thinking about disbanding, and that would mean that there are some pretty skilled North American players out as free agents as well.
Yeah, and there's going to be some interesting shakeup. So we talked about Lanham a little bit. Lanham is retiring. The official quote that came off of his Weibo account was, "With DK, the last year was the most exciting in the first half of my life. Shout out to my most trusted carry, the two strongest solos, and my understanding partner, coach, and fans. Thank you for accompanying me to the end of my career." And he says, "At Burning, at Ice Ice Ice, at Mushi, at Pennytang. The recent news were false." I don't know what he's referring to there. "And after I return home, I am willing to share the wonderful year I've had in DK with all the supportive and loving DK fans." So it's interesting because he does say at the end of my career, but he hasn't officially, from anything that I've seen, filed his retirement paperwork yet.
Well, yeah.
I mean, we'll see how it goes when he goes back. Is he going to pull the farm? Is he going to say, maybe I stay one more year under contract? Maybe I try to make this thing happen? Maybe I want the ring? Or do you think he walks away and starts a new life? I mean, the question is, what does a Major League gamer do? Or not a Major League gamer, just a pro gamer do when he leaves, right? I mean, it's not like... a lot
of these guys are working their way through uni right now.
Right.
And that's part of the reason why a lot of these guys have trouble grabbing the ring, so to speak, to have trouble with the Aegis, is because they can't commit to training to the same degree that the guys who win can. That's typically the case. Is the teams that have students do well, but they don't win. Teams that have full-time players win. And I would not be at all surprised to see, especially in the East, but really anywhere, Major League Gaming clubs have a JV style team for students and students would not be allowed onto the varsity team until they graduate with their studies. And basically a lot of Asian houses already have this, where they have 2 or 3 sub spots. I mean, even EG had it with Mason. They have a standard, or in the case of Fnatic as well. It's becoming increasingly common to have a 6-slot, 7-slot.
Right.
I wouldn't at all be surprised to see that change in the next year or two, just because this is becoming serious money. This is becoming more than pro golf money, and people are going to start taking it much more seriously.
Right. So it is going to get serious. I'm curious to see how the changes happen. That's why I'm curious to see if Lanham, if the folks talking about retiring actually do. So Lanham, a big shakeup. That means DK may destabilize, may venture out. We may see Ice Ice Ice, or as I like to call him, Ice Cubed, deciding where he wants to go and kind of maybe changing things up. By the same token, I'm interested to see, we know there's going to be, like you said, shakeups on Na'Vi. Don't know who or where or how, but it's something to keep in mind. These guys have been grossing a huge amount of yearly income over the last year or two, and they can actually retire from this if they want to, especially given their relative economies. They can take this as their chance to move on. The other thing that I've heard rumors of, unsubstantiated, just sort of floating around the Dota sphere, is the idea that Mason stated that he will not be continuing to competitively play after TI4. So a lot of people are looking at that, like, is EG going to pick someone up for replacement? Are they not going to have Mason in there? Will Universe take on the 1 role? Will they grab someone like Go Black to fill in the extra spots? What's going to happen? So that's something that I'm really curious about. Will EG, whether or not Mason wants to retire, keep the same lineup? Or do you think that they'll go to fill that role on a more permanent, maybe make some transition bases?
And the other thing is, it's not clear, and it never has been clear, how long Fear is going to have his hiatus. Because right now, the official story is he has a wrist injury, or elbow injury, depending on whom you ask. He has some sort of an arm injury that's prolonged. It's something along the lines of tennis elbow, that from prolonged activity at the computer, and that he can play, but he can't play enough to competitively play.
Long story short, nerf Pornhub IMO, I think, is what too much time at the computer. But no, I mean, at the end of the day, you're right. Will he be able to come back in? I think that having somebody that they can rotate with him might be a good idea.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, he did a great job as coach and manager, I thought.
It's not clear that he even wants to play. In fact, he's not explicitly said he wants to come back and play anymore. And that's one guy who has worked his butt off, possibly more than any other Western player. This guy has worked his fingers to the bone from the very beginning of esports to try and make a living. And he's kind of done it, kind of not through the years. But he is, a lot of people say, the West's best player. Yeah. And anybody would be extremely happy to have him on board as coach. I'm sure he can still turn a living that way.
Exactly.
I'm positive he could turn a living casting.
And that's I would not be surprised based on what I saw him do with EG, because I think that once he stepped back, they solidified Mason, created the team, and he started coaching it. They had a huge arc of like just improved play with Fear in a coaching position. I think he works really well with PPD, putting together those drafts and just kind of helping them through the process. And if he can make money, if they bring him on with a decent contract and also give him options for casting, like every time that Fear has casted, especially in the Summit, because he sat in a lot of the Summit casts, fans loved it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that possibility for him, getting a younger player into the playing role, but him coaching the team.
It's just I don't see him back. He's not explicitly said, like I said, that he's interested in coming.
Right.
I think when push comes to shove, this guy's going to be back in the trenches within a year.
He's like a Brett Favre character, right? He can't walk away.
Right, and how could you? With a skill like that, it's literally the skill he's been honing his entire life.
Right.
He is one of the best, and the team that he plays for is filled with a bunch of the best now. Like, they are considered the shining light of America right now. So I don't see why he wouldn't go back. I know EG has... once again, they haven't been explicit about anything, but they've been implying that he will at least be subbing back in at some point in time. It's really unclear, but there's really nothing more to say on the topic other than it could be happening, and it could be happening soon. Yep,
absolutely. I mean, that's what it is. We're going to see a lot of the guys who've been in the game for a long time considering retirement, making their choices. It's all going to shake out soon, and that brings us kind of to our next topic on Dota, is upcoming tournaments, things to watch right now. So a couple things. And I'm sure you'll agree with me here, we're entering the post-TI phase, right? All of our streamers are traveling back to their homes. All of our tournament organizers are sitting down saying, all right, how much money do we have for the upcoming seasons? There's no major events. The next big one, and I will say, actually, I'll get to that in a second before I jump to like the new join Dota season and stuff. Right now, however, is a big time for something very specific, and that is new and returning players to the game of Dota 2. So I expect guys in pubs over the next couple of weeks to see an increase in noob activity. If you're in the low MMRs, pull your pants up, buckle your belts, and get ready to carry some kids.
If you're in the low MMRs, it's such a shit show down there anyway. They'll
make no difference.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched games at lower. I've never had an MMR lower than 3,000, which is not. It's not me bragging. It's like that's pretty pathetic, honestly, for somebody at my level of interest in the game to only be at 3,000. But I've never had an MMR lower than that. But I've watched like 2,000 games, 1,800 games or whatever, and there'll be guys that are just like, this item looks good, I'm gonna get 7 of them, and they'll just have 5 plate mails and 2 on the courier. Like it's literally that level of just. There are some people out there who don't understand the game fundamentally, and I don't know that having no exposure to the game whatsoever could make you worse than that. So
that's true. That is true. Now, I understand that completely. As some of you may know, I started from the bottom and got to where I am.
So I feel so bad for you.
I think I came out of calibration at 2,300 because
gross.
I hadn't played, what was it? Oh, well, I didn't understand ELO because I came from World of Warcraft, so I played a bunch of games like an idiot, you know, with... And anyway,
I did the same thing. It makes you feel any better. I played a bunch of games. I played my solo ranking. I got it in one night. I did 10 games in one night overnight, which was a terrible mistake.
Well, I think I was drunk. I was drunk for half of them. It was terrible.
Yeah, no.
Either way, though, came out at 2,300, got myself up there above the 3K mark, so thank God. But I can tell you that sub 2.5 is literally a living hell. That said, though, those of you who are playing maybe all picks, like when we're doing other heroes or testing out some new stuff, we play the non-ranked, expect to see returning players, people who haven't played in a while coming back, getting back into the game, expect to see noobs. And remember, let's be nice. The more people who play, the more money we get. The more money we get, the bigger our sport gets. The bigger our sport gets, the more stuff there is for you to watch. So be prepared for those returners over the next couple of weeks, which brings us to upcoming stuff, man. let's see. No
You wanna
games
know
right now.
Everything that's upcoming.
Well,
Everything that's upcoming. You ready?
JDL.
Join Dota League Season 2.
Yep.
SIVO.
So right
Unless
now,
you're watching Chinese Dota, that's pretty much it.
exactly. So right now you got Join Dota League Season 2. Now keep in mind, signups, guys, end in 2 days. So if you've got a team that you want to put in there, get there right now. That's the time to get your team signed up. Like he just said, SIVO is underway. They just kicked off this week, so SIVO will be running.
Last week, which is it's pathetic that you and I are both staff casters at SIVO.
Well, they sort of
had any idea. They started last week.
They snuck started on us. Yeah, it was a rough time to start the tournament. It's an interesting tournament format this year. It's an open start to finish, which means any team that's in there has a chance to play against any other team. So you can see some pretty big games, or a chance for a relatively unknown Rocky style of team to come up against a much bigger team and kind of make a stand. So SIVO going on right now. JDL2 is doing signups. AD2, all the amateur Dota 2 league, is still running in full force with all of their leagues right now open and legendary. So you can see a couple of good games over there. And SECS should be coming back on August 2nd. So that will be the, as most of us know, the league where you get to kind of play one night, do the tournament kind of format, which I think is going to be the evolution of gaming or league gaming in the future. But we'll get to that on another show, perhaps. We'll talk about the future of amateur tournaments. Let's do that. We'll set up a show, the future of amateur tournaments and formats. I'll get a couple of amateur promoters on here, and we'll figure out how it is that you get into competitive gaming. That sounds like that could be fun, right? That could be a good show.
Well, I think it's important to note that most professional gamers don't really get their start in amateur tournament. It's kind of counterintuitive that way. Most professional gamers get their start playing with professionals, like casually.
Right.
Amateur tournaments are really more for if you are a high-level player and you don't have the time to try and go pro, or you don't have the skill necessarily to try and go pro. That's really what amateur tournaments are for. They're for expanding your community reach and trying to make a little bit of money, maybe, getting some good scrims in. But for the most part, players who do pro gaming because they meet other pro gamers in pubs. They meet other pro gamers at events. They meet other pro gamers in scrims, and then they get drafted onto a team that's already doing pro stuff. It's pretty uncommon to see a team like rise from the ranks. Like in eHug, which a former working all the way up, that is not very common, and those teams are usually not very successful, unfortunately.
Well, there's a first time for everything, so maybe we'll see it. Maybe we'll see it this year. Newbie showed us a new team could win.
Well, once again, Newbie.
I know, handpicked. I know. Get on your soapbox. They were all handpicked by Newbie. They're all famous.
I mean, some of them were literally snipe drafted off of active TI teams. It's not like these guys are new to this sport. You know, that's not natural.
Yeah, there's still a new team, though. I mean, there's still a synergy aspect of a young team being able to come up.
So is EG. EG is just as new.
Yeah, kudos to EG. I mean, they were playing mediocre tournaments not too long ago. We'll see. I think that there's some definite. You have a great point there, and I think that, like you're saying, a lot of those pro teams or the up and coming like the SNAs come together through elite leagues. But you got to get practice and you got to get there first. So that said, though, let's talk a little bit about this. Oh, quick! If you are a promoter, you know somebody who works for a league that's going to be opening up anytime in the near future. Let me know. Tweet at me so that I can announce it on the show. We will start talking on a pretty regular basis about when signups and when leagues are playing.
I promise if you contact Toffees, I'll stop talking shit about your tournaments, too. Because right now, I feel like I just, unnecessarily just dug them all into a shallow grave and threw them out back. But
yeah.
Amateur tournaments are good. You should watch them. You should enjoy them. You should play in them. You should support them. They're just not where pro players usually come from. That's all I'm saying.
So once again, this is a guy who hangs out with pros on a regular basis. For the rest of us, amateur tournaments are kind of nice. So,
dude, Toffees, yesterday, for maybe the 4th time ever in my Dota career, mostly because I usually have a different username up when I'm pubbing, but somebody was stomping on my nuts in a pub. And at the end of the game, he goes, "Hey, are you the Gorgon from Join Dota?" And I was like, nice. "Yeah." And he's like, "Hey, I recognize you." It's really weird for me when that happens because not that many people actually know who I am. So
no, it happens once in a while. I was playing in a game a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, with one of my friends, and the guy on the other team is like, "Holy shit, are you the real Toffees?" And I was like, I don't know, are there more Toffees out there? He's like, no, the caster Toffees. And I was like, oh yeah, I get, yeah, that's me. And then my friend like went into like hype man mode, like it was a rap concert or something. I was like, yo, no, this is Toffees, bro. You guys are playing against the fucking legend. I was like, no, calm down. And then I started to raffle stomp, and I was like, go with the hype, bro. Go with the hype.
Here's the especially strange thing, though. They didn't recognize me from my casting. They recognized me from my Dota writing, which most people don't even look at the authors of the articles that they're reading. So that's really what stuck on me. Because when people recognize me from my casting, I don't really remember it that much. You know, it's like it happens once in a while, and it's not that big of a deal because they hear my voice and then they recognize me. It happens. And at the level that I play at, which is fluctuating between like 3,200 and 3,600, there isn't as much pro watching anyway. There's as much watching, so people aren't as likely to recognize you. So it's not an issue that I have to deal with that often, but this is one of the first times somebody's actually A, cared enough about the scene to be reading stuff on sites, and then B, cared enough about what he's reading to actually look at the authors and remember them. Like that's amazing to me. I don't even do that. You know what I mean?
Yep, I absolutely do. So if you guys see us in games, feel free to say hi because it makes us feel warm and fuzzy inside. That said,
and stalked. It makes us feel stalked on the outside. So that's great.
I do want to bring up one last piece of Dota news, guys. The genuine gold trove cask. So this is a treasure chest, from what I understand, that you got out of the boxes that you purchased at the secret shop at TI4. There was the possibility of pulling one of these cask claiming cards out for Steam. It has already been listed, all right? So keep in mind that 7 were sold today already for $280 a piece. So this is a if you got the card and you go home to Dota, don't put it in and open it up right away. You might want to consider getting rid of this thing because it's peaked. Highest price it's sold so far is $374. So this is a very, very expensive item and not to be trifled with. But how often do we see items go that high in Dota?
Wait,
almost never.
I don't know. I think there's at least one item that gets somewhere near that for every seasonal event.
Right. So it's still, that's the item this year. It's getting pretty big and bad, so keep that in mind. And that's all that I have on Dota 2 news for you guys today. As like I said, it's pretty quiet out there. We're gonna keep an eye out for Join Dota. Also, Starladder Star Series 10, I think it is, starts up in August 26th, if I remember correctly, or they're going to start kind of running through the qualifiers then. So that's another upcoming tournament to kind of keep in mind, though it's way, way out there.
Yeah, that's in the future. I mean, we'll have a couple major tournaments around that time. That's
the beginning.
Third or first trimester, as it were, of the international, right?
Trimesters, I like that. So it's the beginning of the preparation to qualify. And keep in mind, guys, when we say that, you'll hear a lot of tweets and a lot of hashtags Road to TI5 because a lot of what your year is going to be for the pros who are trying to get to TI5 from here on out is getting into tournaments, getting visual recognition, getting a couple of wins, and then earning the invite. Because remember, there is no League of Legends ranking system in place where Valve says, all right, top 12 teams, you get an invite. It's about recognition in teams that have a presence in the field. So we're going to start to see the new teams. The shuffling should be finished up by late August. We should see teams start to kind of reveal themselves in their new formats. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. I would say last year, based on how things shook out last year, most teams are probably going to be pretty set by late August. I would give till mid-September until maybe even late September until every team is kind of at least settled on something. And then we're going to see a second set of drafts, probably like player swaps or player drafts based on performance. That's going to happen around November, December. And then after December, where we'll probably also see a patch coming out from Valve. After that, we're going to start seeing the first and second half of like real serious boot camping into TI. Right. So the January, February, some of March is going to be for a lot of European tournaments, most likely. And then after that, you're going to see the next Star Series, or the last Star Series before the next TI, and as well as probably 2 or 3 other major tournaments,
right?
At least in the West, and that's going to be really the buckle down and get your team set time. So that's obviously like a year from now, but that's probably what we're looking at in terms of scheduling. It breaks down very easily in usually about 4 chunks, which is why I usually talk about the season in quarters. But sometimes you can, depending on what aspect you're talking about, you can break it which makes it a little more complicated.
Absolutely. Yeah, it does make it a little more complicated. But I think I like the system. I like the way it's set up. It's all, run individually and community-based, which is nice. But as we move into other gaming news, be a nice transition. Other gaming news right now is while you can't watch Dota, you can watch League of Legends if you must do something mobile-related. Their league format is in full swing right now. I think there's 3 games over the next day or 2 if you want to watch their competitive style. And obviously theirs is very different. It's sanctioned by Riot instead of blessed by Valve and sort of the way that we do ours. So it's something to fill your time. I don't really like it, but hey, to each their own. Second other news, let's see. Destiny, the big game Destiny is coming out for Xbox and PlayStation. It's going to be the next generation of console gaming. The beta has gone live on Xbox One, 360, PS3, and PS4. So if you want to beta it out, it is available there, and they are releasing the betas, so it's alive and being played. Another game that's really big, everybody's talking about, Dragon Age Inquisition, has been delayed an extra month, so EA is choosing not to release it, which is interesting, by the way, because EA just did their Q1 earning statement. They just released it, and they are officially the biggest earning video games company in the world right now between their major franchises. So apparently the FIFA franchise, NBA, I think it's 4K, and a couple other sports franchises have still continued to keep them at the top of the gaming list, which maybe gave them the confidence to delay out Dragon Age just a little bit. So you'll have to wait some more time for that one in particular. What else am I missing here? For those of you who play Hearthstone, the patch was released. The brand new cards are now in play. Interestingly enough, I don't know if you ever played. Did you ever play MMOs back in the day, Gorgon?
Oh, not really. I did a free trial of WoW once, and yeah, that's about it.
Long story short, they released a whole new card set. So you know how Magic or these kind of card games release new sets.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, Hearthstone has decided to release their cards in stages the same way that MMOs release raid dungeons in stages. So essentially they released the first set of, I think it's 12 to 15 cards that you can earn by beating very difficult AI opponents over this next week. And those cards will slowly integrate themselves. They're already in play. Next week, they'll open up a new stage where another 15 or so cards will be released into the pool after you've defeated a couple of quote-unquote quests against NPC opponents. So it's an interesting way to give out free cards over the course of a month and to kind of throttle the entry of all these new cards into the actual game itself. So it's kind of convenient because I played last night and I only had to learn about 7 or 8 new cards instead of sitting down and memorizing 35, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that is how traditional trading card games work, right? They release the card list in advance, and every serious player memorizes every card before they go to release tournaments, which is, I had a lot of actually very serious Magic the Gathering trading card game players as friends going out of high school into college. And they would sit down with sometimes big, entire set releases. They would sit down and just memorize them together like flashcards, which you would think they'd do better with learning science or foreign languages, but none of them were. They were all just really good at memorizing Magic trading cards. So.
So I like that Hearthstone's done that. It's made it easier for those of us casual. Yeah, it's way more accessible. And honestly, as an old Magic junkie who used to play Magic in the Marvel Versus, which was big for 2 years competitively, I love the rollout because I can play, but I can still be casual about my consumption at the same time. So wrapping up gaming news in the interest of time, interesting things to keep in mind is that see if I can find the story here. It was just announced that first off, the finals for the U.S. Pokemon Championship are going on right now, so you can check those out. It was posted at 6 a.m. this morning that there'll be a bunch of games this afternoon, so look into that. The International Esports Tournament for Disabled Gamers will be taking place in October in South Korea, so over 200 players from 12 countries, including the U.S., Germany, South Africa, are all coming out for League of Legends, StarCraft, FIFA Online, and they'll be going to a massive Disabled Gamers Tournament, which is pretty cool and pretty interesting. And finally, last night LeBron James did an interview on ESPN where he said, he quoted in the interview that I'm really, really good at playing Shaq Fu on the Genesis. So I don't know if that means he's a great gamer or a terrible gamer, but at the end of the day, apparently LeBron James loves Shaq Fu. I don't know if you ever played Shaq Fu.
That
it was
sounds
so bad.
like a type of dessert.
Oh, you've not
involving moose.
No. Okay, so you missed out on Shaq Fu back in the day.
I mean, I was alive and gaming during that period of time. I just never played that specific
No, because it was terrible. It was a fighting game based around Shaq. But I mean, at the end of the day, he plays it, he likes it. What can you do?
Now, I played Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. I loved that game. Where you have the monkey companion and you save children from closets, but when you save them, they jump up and down with their head at crotch level. It's a terrible, like, it's really the I assume unintentional,
right? Sexual innuendo.
Very visual sexual innuendos that happen in that game were very unfortunate for his public image, I think.
That's
between the 6 to 8-year-old demographic.
That's pretty funny. So, old games, man. If you want old games that are good, Zombies Ate My Neighbors is the best old game of all time. But I won't get into that.
I remember that game.
Oh, it was so good. So good. I think I got to, like, what was it, level 210 or something ridiculous like that. Anyway, if you ever dig up a Super Nintendo and you get your hands on that game, you will not regret it. I assure you of that. So, that's it for gaming news for the time being. Now we're going to roll into the news that you need for your day, because it's important that you are able to show off and show that Dota players aren't mindless thugs. Thugs, I chose the word thugs as if that's a reality, aren't mindless thugs, that we are educated people as well. So here's where we give you your news for the day that you can use with your boss, your teacher, or the folks at the water cooler to sound that much cooler. So today is declared an official National Day of Mourning in the Netherlands for the victims of Malaysia Airlines Flight 17. That's the
reasonable.
Yep, it's definitely reasonable. That's the flight that was shot down flying over Ukraine from Malaysia towards the Netherlands. A lot of Netherlands passengers were killed during that period, and it is an official day of mourning in the Netherlands. So kind of nice that the state put that together. Also something for us to kind of keep in mind as we go about our day. It's something that'll definitely be worth a mention. A lot of leading airlines, this is number 2, have suspended flights to Israel's main airport after a rocket fired from Gaza struck about a mile from its runways. So the National Airport of Israel is losing business now and commerce coming into the capital due to the fact that there are missile strikes within hitting range. So this is kind of good news, maybe a little bit of fiscal pressure on both sides to sit down and try to resolve, or at least stop shooting explosive items at each other.
Because embargoes have been so extremely.
Well, this isn't an embargo. This isn't an embargo though, and this is a keeping in mind that Israel is more reliant.
Effectively similar. It's just it is being caused by. It's not an intentional.
Right.
I'm not going to allow you to get anything. It is like we just can't can't get things in here because it'll blow up. We cannot sell Jell-O if it is exploded. So we need to not ship it in via plane right now.
And it is a blockade. However, and I would also argue that it's a little different than the embargo thing in Cuba because they're far more technologically advanced and dependent on trade. So when a major player in world positioning can't get something, their populace tends to get pretty angry. Can you imagine if there was an embargo on the U.S. on like cell phones or new microchips or something, or really just anything? If you told us we couldn't have Scotch tape, we'd riot.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I would riot on that. But bear in mind, Israel has the majority of their trade is going to be coming in from their coastline, right? The majority of their trade is going to be coming in over the Mediterranean Sea. So I have doubts as to whether or not this is going to be that significant of a product loss for them. I mean, I'm not an expert on commerce in Israel, but most things are not shipped through airplane internationally. Most things are shipped either through truck or through boat. So, and they've got several very large ports that are fairly safe from any sort of interaction with this political incident. So I have doubts about whether or not this will be significant fiscal pressure.
I don't think it won't be tons. There are a couple of key industries in the region that do function through air freight, but they can kind of modify that to somewhere else. That said, though, at least it's something where in the past you've always heard about the real difficulty coming from the other side of the wall, for lack of a better way to say it. And this time, it's difficulty on this side. So it's an interesting idea. We'll see where it goes. Something definitely worth knowing. If you're planning a trip to Israel right now, maybe consider another airport.
You know, we've been saying for a long time here now, for about 2 weeks, but if you're planning a trip, just don't. Just Airports are blowing up.
Just
and
go.
planes
Just
are being
see
shot
the
out of the
see
sky.
the Grand Canyon. Just go see the Grand Canyon.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
why not?
always safe. I mean, there might be Mexican kids there, but that's fine. You know, and they're not Mexican. They're usually like from Panama or Costa Rica or whatever.
And they're very friendly.
I'm sure they're extremely friendly, and also it's very pretty. And you know, you might even get yourself a little Latino baby. I don't know. They need homes, so whatever.
So this number 3, Obamacare, once again in the news. That's a nationalized healthcare in the U.S. For those of you who may not be from the U.S. Long story short, 2 judgments came down from actual regional panels yesterday. A 3-judge panel of the D.C. Circuit Court said that a key component of the law is not legal, and then at the same time, at literally the same time, another circuit court in another state said, actually, they're totally cool. So some states are sort of approving, some are denying, and once again, the round robin goes on. Obamacare is starting to feel like so many other conflicts throughout the world that just can't seem to get resolved. But at least now you know. That's what's going on. Big fruit recall. This is kind of important. If you've picked up fruit at Costco, Trader Joe's, Kroger, Walmart, or Sam's Club recently, peaches, nectarines, plums, and plots, whatever the hell that is, that were packed in Cutler, California between June 1st and July 12th are being recalled. So if any of that applies to you, if you shopped at those places, go to a news website or the website of the peaches and just give them back. It's causing food poisoning, fever, muscle aches, and terrible, terrible gas. That's true because that's written in the news report.
This is why I don't eat fruit. I actually eat exclusively 1960s asbestos and drywall plaster.
Proven
Those
to be
safe. 2 major food groups.
Safer than California peaches. So this just in, asbestos greater than California peaches. And finally, Washington standoff. Prospects for passage of a plan to address the southern border crisis before Congress, which Gorgon alluded to a minute ago, leaves for its summer recess were in doubt yesterday as Republican congressional leaders blasted President Obama for not engaging them. And the top Democrats dismissed the GOP proposal. So long story short, they start vacation this week, and they're gone for 3 weeks, and they were committed to getting an immigration reform bill through to take care of all these kids who are stuck sleeping in really squalid conditions on the border. And instead, they argued endlessly yesterday and will now just go on vacation while the kids continue to sleep in shelters, 2 or 3 to a cot. So, yay, kudos to you, Congress. Well, I can't wait to vote for you again.
I don't want to undersell, like, this is a humanitarian crisis. I don't want to act like it's not. But to be 100% fair, the kids might be living in squalid conditions here, but this, whatever their conditions are here, living in mass in like gymnasiums or whatever it is, it's still probably better than where they came from. So it's still a step up, most likely. At least, I'm sure that's what Congress had in mind when they refused to handle this situation. They're just like, oh, they're fine. It's a step up. It's like, oh, whatever, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, it is. So I don't know. That's what it
needs to be handled. It really does.
It's one of those things that, you know, Congress needs to just get their crap together and get it taken care of. But at the end of the day, what can we do other than make our voices known in the next election? And I can assure you, I will. As will we all. You get to hear. You'll get to hear all kinds of fun stuff, I'm sure, when we get there. It'll be fun because I will stay completely neutral as the host, but I will ask every guest to tangent or tirade any way that they want to once election season gets here, and that should be pretty entertaining. So that said, though, that is our show for today. As far as formatted stuff goes, Gorgon, do you have any last closing thoughts before we shut it down?
Oh, just stop by SIVA. We started casting this week. Chicago Ted actually hopped on the bus and made sure it was happening. And I saw one viewer comment that these matches are better than the international finals. So it might be a low bar, but it's a bar that we're beating at SIVA. So stop by, watch SIVA on twitch.tv/PlaySIVA1 and twitch.tv/PlaySIVA2. We've got matches every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday moving your way. And on Join Dota, we have the first of what I hope will be a line of potential editorializing. I've been trying to get the Join Dota business model to kind of gear a little bit more towards having some interesting opinions and fact-based opinion pieces come up in the near future. And Chris Warrior, one of our writers, actually took the initiative to write down some analysis of community reaction of the international based on social science.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's an interesting read. He's fairly well written. I want to get more content like this on Join Dota, but to do it, we need to make sure that we're getting some reads on it. So, guys, if you haven't done it yet, stop over and read Chris Warrior's article. Leave a comment. If you liked it, mention how much you like it, because I really want this to be the sort of content that not only we at Join Dota and at High Ground TV are pumping out, but also, as it turns out, most of the formats of articles that I've gotten up on Join Dota in the past have then bled over to like Osu Gamers, and I would really love the whole scene to have more of this type of writing. So just go over and leave a comment. Say that you like it if you do, or, you know, talk about something unrelated, but just show that you've read it. It will make a difference in the way the scene sees intellectual writing and analysis of Dota.
I like how you pitch them on going over there to do this, but you also said it's hard to please Gorgon, by the way, guys, if you work for him. Comments like, hey, it was a decently written article cracks me up. But I read it. I thought it was very good. I think that it's some great information. It took me about 3 reads to process, but I think that it is going to be good content. So head over there, read the decently well-written article, which I think actually was really well-written, and it'll be a good chance for you guys. Now, finally, the last update for the day, I bring it to you every afternoon for 10 more days, is the Zach Brown potato salad update. He's hit $61.5 thousand, and it continues to climb. So it's slowed a little bit, but he's still going up there. Picks up probably about $1,000 a day right now for that potato salad. He
can almost make enough potato salad to feed the children who are now homeless at our border. So
now there's an idea. Somebody write Congressman Zach Brown if he does this, is what I say. But that's it, guys. That's our show for today. My name is Toffees, always bringing you coffee with Toffees here. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more chats. I will say that Friday I will be off as I'm traveling for a friend's wedding, so we won't have coffee on Friday, but I should be in a place where I can at least get something, whether it's a SoundCloud straight feed or we get somebody to run the stream for us back on Monday, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. You can get the show on YouTube, you can get the show on SoundCloud. On either of those, if you like it, hit the likes, hit the follows, let people know about the show. We're trying to grow it, we're trying to get bigger so that I can start to bring folks on more often so that we can come up with better formats.
You guys don't want to listen to me all the time. Like right now, I'm what Toffees has available because I'll do I work for anybody. I have no standards whatsoever. But Toffees is trying to get some like real guests, you know. Get somebody on who actually knows something or does something of value. Speaking of which, if you guys want to follow me, you can do so at GotCowDota. I have nothing of value to say, but you know.
Well, I mean, ultimately, I'd like to do things like bring Gorgon in full time and then to be able to bring in some major guests and things like that. So follow, support. We appreciate it, guys. I'll leave you with some music, but enjoy your day. Have a great morning, and as always,